The email from my mother sat in my inbox for 3 days before I opened it. I knew what it would say, the same thing it said every year. Dearest Marcus, the annual Thornton Family Reunion is scheduled for July 20th at Riverside Country Club. Unfortunately, this year's venue has very strict capacity limits and guest restrictions. We simply don't have room for everyone. Since you're so busy with your city work anyway, we thought you'd understand. Your brother David will be giving a presentation about his promotion to VP at Henderson Financial. We're so proud. Love, Mom. I read it twice, my jaw tightening. This was the 5th year in a row I'd been uninvited to the family reunion. The 5th year they'd chosen the golden child narrative over acknowledging my existence. My assistant knocked on my office door. Commissioner Thornton? The mayor needs to see you about the country club rezoning application. I'll be right there, I said, closing the email. Commissioner Marcus Thornton, City Planning Commissioner for Riverside. I'd held the position for 2 years, overseeing all major development projects, zoning changes and building permits in the city. It was a role I'd earned after 8 years on the planning board, a master's degree in urban development and countless hours of public service. My family had no idea. To them I was still Marcus who works for the city, some vague municipal job they'd never bothered to understand. My mother introduced me as doing something with paperwork downtown. My father told relatives I pushed papers at City Hall. David, meanwhile, was the star, private school Ivy League corner office country club membership. I walked to the mayor's office, my mind still on that email. Marcus. Mayor Patricia Chin greeted me warmly. I need your eyes on something. Riverside Country Club is applying for a major expansion. New golf course, enlarged clubhouse, parking structure. The application just landed on my desk, but it needs planning commission approval first. He handed me the file. I opened it, scanning the details. Riverside Country Club, the same venue hosting my family's reunion. The same club my brother had joined last year, the membership my parents never stopped bragging about. What's the issue? I asked. Several, Patricia said. The expansion encroaches on protected wetlands. The traffic study is incomplete. The environmental impact report has significant gaps. Normally I'd just send it back for revisions, but given the club's political connections, I want the Planning Commission to review it thoroughly. This needs to be airtight, either approve it properly or deny it with cause. I looked at the application date. Filed 6 months ago. Expedited review requested. City Council presentation scheduled for July 25th, 5 days after my family's reunion. I'll review it personally, I said. Schedule a full commission hearing. Perfect. The club president is Richard Westwood. Do you know him? No, I said. But I'll make sure this gets proper scrutiny. What I didn't mention was that Richard Westwood was my uncle, my father's brother, the family patriarch who'd built the Thornton family wealth through real estate development. The same uncle who'd told me at age 16 that urban planning was a career for people without ambition. July 20th arrived hot and bright. I spent the morning reviewing the country club's expansion application in detail. The problems were worse than I'd initially thought. The wetland encroachment violated 3 different environmental codes. The traffic plan assumed road improvements that hadn't been approved, and the parking structure exceeded height restrictions for the zone. My phone buzzed with texts from my cousin Jennifer, the only family member who still spoke to me regularly. Marcus, are you really not coming today? Everyone's asking where you are. I texted back, wasn't invited. Mom said no room. What? There are 150 people here. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I put my phone down and returned to the application. The Planning Commission hearing was scheduled for next week. I needed to prepare my questions. At 2 o'clock my phone rang. Mayor Chin. Marcus, I'm at a ribbon cutting at the new library. Guess who else is here? Your entire family, apparently. Your mother just introduced herself to me and mentioned her son David works in finance. I said, oh, do you have other children? She said just David and a daughter in Seattle. I said, what about Marcus? She looked confused. Said you work abroad. I closed my eyes. I work in the building next to yours. I'm aware. I'm calling because I'm heading to their reunion at the country club afterward. Your Uncle Richard personally invited me, wants to discuss the expansion application, informally. I declined, but I thought you should know they're using the family event to lobby. Thank you for telling me. Marcus, I've known you for 6 years. You're the most dedicated public servant I've worked with. Whatever's happening with your family, don't let it affect your judgment on this application. Review it fairly but thoroughly. After she hung up, I sat in my office staring at the application. I could recuse myself, claim conflict of interest. Or I could do my job exactly as I'd do it for any other applicant. I picked up my pen and started documenting every code violation. The Planning Commission hearing was held in City Hall's main chamber, open to the public. I arrived early, reviewing my notes. The room filled quickly. Country club members in expensive suits, environmental advocates with handmade signs, reporters from the local paper. And then I saw them. My mother, father, and David sitting in the front row next to Uncle Richard. They were here to support the expansion. My mother wore pearls and a proud smile, clearly enjoying the importance of the occasion. None of them had noticed me yet. I sat at the commissioner's bench in my suit, nameplate clearly visible, Marcus Thornton, chair. The hearing began. Uncle Richard presented first, his pitch polished and confident. This expansion represents a $50 million investment in Riverside. Jobs, tax revenue, enhanced recreational facilities. The country club has been a cornerstone of this community for 75 years. Mr. Westwood, I said, my voice carrying across the chamber. Can you address the wetland encroachment identified in the staff report? My mother's head snapped up. She stared at me, her face draining of color. David's mouth fell open. My father gripped the armrest of his chair. Uncle Richard's confident expression faltered. Commissioner Thornton? Marcus. Yes, I said calmly. Can you address the wetland issue? The wetlands are minimal, Richard said, recovering. Barely a quarter acre. The economic benefits far outweigh. Federal law doesn't make exceptions for economic benefits, I interrupted. The Clean Water Act protects wetlands regardless of size. Your application shows direct filling of 0.3 acres of jurisdictional wetlands with no mitigation plan. We'll provide mitigation. The application needed to include that. Environmental review happens before approval, not after. I turned to the club's engineer, who'd gone pale. Your traffic study assumes the expansion of Highway 12. That project isn't funded. It's not even in the regional transportation plan. How do you justify a capacity analysis based on infrastructure that doesn't exist? We were told the highway expansion was likely. Likely isn't adequate for planning approval. Current infrastructure can't support your projected traffic increase. That's a significant public safety concern. I went through the application point by point, each question precise and devastating. The parking structure height violations. The incomplete environmental review. The missing stormwater management plan. Every question was fair, factual, and damning. My family sat frozen. Around them, country club members whispered urgently. Uncle Richard's face had gone from confident to panicked. This commission, I said finally, is responsible for ensuring all development meets city codes and serves public interest. Based on the incomplete application and numerous violations, I'm recommending denial without prejudice. The applicant may resubmit once all deficiencies are corrected and proper environmental review is completed. You can't do this. Uncle Richard burst out. This is personal. You're sabotaging your own family because the application violates multiple city codes? I asked calmly. Mr. Westwood, I've reviewed this exactly as I'd review any application. The violations are documented in the staff report, which you received 2 weeks ago. If you'd like to claim bias, you're welcome to request my recusal, and Vice Chair Morrison can lead the review. She'll find the same problems. Vice Chair Morrison nodded. The staff report is thorough. These are legitimate concerns. I move to deny the application, said Commissioner Park. Second, said Commissioner Williams. The vote was unanimous. Denied. Uncle Richard stood abruptly, his face red. This is ridiculous. You're killing this project because you're bitter about what? Not being invited to family dinners. The room went completely silent. I'm sorry, I said. Oh, don't act innocent, Richard continued, too angry to care about the audience. You've always resented David's success. resented that he actually made something of himself instead of taking some middling government job. Now you're using what little power you have to punish the family. Mr. Westwood, Mayor Chen's voice rang out from the back of the chamber. She'd arrived partway through the hearing. I'd be careful about characterizing the city planning commissioner's role as little power. Commissioner Thornton oversees approximately $2 billion in annual development. He shapes how this entire city grows. And he's never, in 6 years of public service, let personal considerations affect his judgment. She walked down the aisle, every eye following her. Commissioner Thornton is one of the most respected planning officials in the state, Patricia continued. He's won national awards for sustainable development policy. He's been recruited by 3 major cities for senior positions. And he's turned them all down because he's committed to Riverside. Your application was denied because it violated city codes. That's not personal. That's professional. My mother stood, her voice shaking. Marcus, we didn't know you were. We thought you just worked in the planning office. I do work in the planning office, I said quietly. I run it. I have for 2 years. Before that, I spent 8 years on the planning board. You never asked. You never told us. David protested. I tried. Multiple times. You changed the subject every time I mentioned work. You introduced me as working for the city, like I was a meter reader. You told people I was abroad so you wouldn't have to explain why the disappointing son wasn't at family events. That's not fair, my father said weakly. Isn't it? I met his eyes. Dad, I sent you the press release when I was appointed commissioner. You replied, that's nice, honey, and immediately asked if I'd heard about David's promotion. I invited you to my swearing-in ceremony. You said you had a golf tournament. The silence was suffocating. This hearing is adjourned, I said, gathering my papers. Mr. Westwood, you may resubmit the application once the violations are corrected. That typically takes 6 to 8 months. I stood and walked out through the side door, ignoring my family's calls. The next morning, I found my family waiting outside my office. All of them, parents, brother, uncle, even a few cousins. Marcus, please, my mother started. We need to talk about the club expansion. No, I said firmly. You need to talk to the planning staff about correcting your application. I won't discuss pending projects outside official channels. You're really going to do this? Uncle Richard asked. Destroy the club over a grudge? I'm going to do my job, I said. If the club submits a compliant application, it'll be approved. That's how planning works. We didn't know, my mother said desperately. About your position, about how important your work is. We're proud of you, Marcus. We always have been. No, I said quietly. You weren't. You were embarrassed. I chose public service over private wealth, so I didn't fit your definition of success. That's fine, you're entitled to your values. But don't pretend you were proud when you literally told people I didn't exist. We never said that, David protested. Mom told the mayor she had 2 children, David and a daughter in Seattle. When asked about me, she said I worked abroad. That's erasure, David. That's not miscommunication. My mother was crying now. I panicked. I didn't know how to explain why you weren't at the reunion without admitting we didn't invite you. So you said I didn't exist. That's worse, Mom. That's so much worse. Mayor Chen appeared at the end of the hallway. Marcus, City Council meeting in 10 minutes. We're presenting the new affordable housing initiative. I'll be right there. Everything okay here? Patricia asked, looking pointedly at my family. Yes, I said. They were just leaving. My family stood there, uncertain. Finally, my father spoke. We were wrong. About everything. We didn't value your work because we didn't understand it. We prioritized David because his success looked like our definition of achievement. We're sorry. Apologies don't fix 5 years of exclusion, I said. Or a lifetime of dismissal. But I appreciate you saying it. Can we try? My mother asked. To do better? To be better. I looked at them, this family that had never quite known what to do with me. Maybe. But first, Uncle Richard needs to fix his application. Properly. No shortcuts, no political pressure. Follow the process. And then? Uncle Richard asked. And then we'll see. The country club's revised application arrived 4 months later. It was compliant. Wetlands properly mitigated, traffic study realistic, environmental review complete. I approved it in 15 minutes. My family invited me to Thanksgiving. I went. It was awkward, but it was start. David asked about my work, actually listened to the answer. My father attended a planning commission meeting. My mother introduced me to her friends as my son, the city planning commissioner. It wasn't perfect. Years of dismissal couldn't be erased overnight. But it was different. And sometimes different is enough. The country club expansion broke ground the following spring. They invited me to the ceremony. I declined, but I sent a card congratulating them on their compliant application. Some bridges take time to rebuild. Some never fully recover. But I'd learned I didn't need their validation to know my work mattered. The city's new affordable housing policy would help 3,000 families. The wetlands I'd protected would serve the ecosystem for generations. The development I guided would shape Riverside's future. That was worth more than any country club membership. That was worth more than their approval. And finally I believed it.